rush me, please. Ah, the results just came in. It seems that the DNA matches. The blood's from the same person.
Huh, I see. If that's the case, what kind of hemorrhaging is it? If this hemorrhaging wasn't caused by physical trauma, then... Little guy? I need you to analyze something.
Yes, of course. Huh, what's this?
I found this in the deceased's personal articles. I get the feeling that it may be drugs.
I see. So you want me to run this through our criminal database?
You're good at picking up on these things.
This is the kind of thing that we do at the FBI, after all. I'll look into what's in these ampules and see if the syringe has been used. It's going to take a while, so you'll have to give me time.
Of course. I'll keep investigating the corpse. The missing area of skull is the section from the mental tubercle to the angle. Chloe had swallowed pieces of human bone. Don't tell me. So it was like I thought. After Chloe swallowed the bone fragments, the mysterious foci appeared in her body. There's something in this bone, some kind of pathogen.
Oh, Dr. Kimishima, that man came by a moment ago.
That man? Who are you talking about?
The, friendly guy. He said something about having finished reconstructing the body.
Ah, you mean Gabe. All right, now we can observe the corpse as a whole.
I've gone ahead and put the skull with the rest of the skeleton. You can look at them whenever you like.
Good, you're on top of things. Can you tell me what you've observed from it?
Oh, right. There wasn't much to get from the body, though. The person was roughly 185 centimeters tall. A histologic examination of the bone detected 15 types of amino acids remaining. There was also a very high concentration of nitrogen. I've sent the results of the analysis to your computer. Please check it out when you need to.
Good, I'll look into it. It's possible to examine the body now, too. Hey, little guy. Can you tell me what this key is for?
A key? Let's see. This is a very unique key. It involves magnetism.
Magnets? What could a key like that be used for?
Probably a safe or something else high security. There's a number on it as well.
I see. Can you find out where whatever it goes to is located?
I can look into it, but
What's wrong? Is there a problem?
we don't have a clue where this key came from. It'll take a long time to find out any specifics about where this key goes.
That's fine. It's still better than me trying to find this out by myself, right?
Well, we are a nationwide organization. Fine, I'll take the key.
I'll let you handle this then. What's this? These scratches on the bone look like an area that's been shaved off. Looks like I need to look into what caused this damage. What is this damage to the joint? It's hard to think that an external force could cause this kind of effect. Yes, the femur is completely broken. But why? In the human skeleton, the femur is... Yes, it was the same in the case when that girl Veronica was thrown off the bridge. But the femur is the strongest among all the bones in the human body. What could have broken this so easily? It's hard to think that an external force could cause this kind of effect. Hey, little guy, can you analyze this marking here?
Yes, of course. Let's see.
How does it look? Can you learn anything from it?
Huh. Yes, first of all, the damage was done recently. There's no discoloration on the bone tissue in the area that had been damaged.
I see. Does this mean that whatever happened here occurred after the person died?
That's right. I don't think it could have happened any other way. From looking at the damaged area, it seems the bone had been shaved away using a tool, like a router.
A router? The only reason I would expect that to happen would be... That's right. The staff at USAMRIID was using this bone for research. There's a good chance they shaved a sample from the bone in order to study it.
Yes, you need small fragments for the high-detail analysis. That's likely what happened to this bone.
Wait a second.
What's wrong?
The researcher at USAMRIID was infected while he was studying this bone. Using a router on the bone would cause particles of pulverized bone to be ejected in the air. If the researcher came down with the disease after performing that procedure, then... Little guy, can I bother you for a moment?
Yes, of course. How may I help you?
I want your opinion on this fractured femur.
Oh, okay. Just a second.
Well, anything?
Well... Huh. What's this? This bone is hollow on the inside. I'm not surprised it broke if it was like this.
Did this fracture occur while the person was still alive?
I can't say about the fracture, but the loss in bone density must have occurred while the person lived.
It seems safe to assume that the fracture was caused by the decrease in bone density then. Little guy, I need this damage analyzed.
Right away. This...
What's the matter?
Nothing. A bone abrasion caused this damage.
Bone abrasion? What do you mean?
Normally, wherever bones meet, there's a layer of fibrocartilage. In this case, the knee, that pad is known as the meniscus. That prevents damage like this from occurring in most people's bodies. The signs of wear I see here are consistent with the bones grinding together.
So these abrasions here were apparently caused by... Indeed. This would mean that the meniscus was lost while the person was still alive and moving. But what would cause this to happen? I need this bone analyzed, little guy. Be careful with it. There's a danger of infection.
Oh, can you warn me a little sooner next time? Give me a moment, please. Let's see here.
Well, did you find anything?
No, I've checked it out, but there's nothing especially unusual about it.
Is that so? That's odd.
What's so odd about that?
This is the bone that Chloe swallowed. When she did, the same black focus that the patients in the quarantine zone had showed up inside her body. According to what Gabe said, the serviceman who had been investigating this bone So, in other words, the pathogen lurking in this bone is... Right. This bone carries a virus that triggers the hemorrhagic fever.
A virus? But this is just a skeleton. A virus requires living cells from its host in order to multiply. So, this virus not only survives the host's death, but can continue within a skeletonized corpse.
Can you really say that such a thing is impossible?
But...
That's not like you. Calm down, little guy. Everything we've seen up until now has taught us something. That there are diseases out there in the world that defy all our understanding and what we think of as common sense.
All right. Let's assume that it is a virus. That doesn't mean that all the mystery... How does this virus live inside this skeleton? And why aren't we infected with the hemorrhagic fever after we've handled the bones?
I really can't say at this point. It's possible this person was infected with the virus. Or perhaps the skeleton had been contaminated after death. In any case, we'll need to continue investigating this in more detail.
Right.
However, I can explain why you and I haven't contracted the hemorrhagic fever.
What? How?
Well, according to what Gabe was told by the assistant secretary, that's right. they concluded that an airborne infection was impossible. This was because the infection wasn't spreading within Usamrid. If that's the case, it's unlikely that the virus is dispersed through a respiratory vector.
Then how does it spread?
Well, in Chloe's case, the foci were located in areas where concentrate. Indeed, the black foci only existed in areas that the bone fragments were in contact with. Taking that into consideration, this virus's route of infection is yes. In other words, the virus only has a limited means of transmission.
I see. That explains the cat's case, at least. But what about the Usamrid researcher? I highly doubt that he'd be chewing on bones.
Good point. There must be an explanation for how that other serviceman was infected as well. That's right. Now we're starting to see how the serviceman at Usamrid was infected as well. The virus rests within that skeleton. The route of infection is yes. It's when it comes in contact with a mucous membrane. Reaching a mucous membrane within the mouth or body causes the virus to infect that person. But there's no way that a researcher would lick or swallow a bone. However, the Usamrid staff did collect a bone sample for their research. In order to obtain that sample, the researcher right. He used a router to shave away a portion of the bone. This is likely what caused the researcher to be infected. The reason for this is concentrate. Yes, shaving bone with a router causes particles of bone dust to fly out into the air. It's likely that the researcher inhaled some of that powder while he was working. The powder then carried the infection and made contact with the mucous membranes. That is my hypothesis to explain the infection of the Usamrid researcher. Abnormal decrease in bone density with the lack of cartilage. What we can deduce from these two events is yes, both these conditions indicate a weakening of the skeletal system. Furthermore, I believe that both these processes happened while the person was still alive. If these conditions allow us to infer anything, it would be that this person was severely debilitated by the time of death. Hey, little guy. Could you analyze something for me?
Sure. Huh? Haven't I already analyzed this for you, Dr. Kimishima?
Yes, but I want to know more details.
Like what?
We know now that the bloodstain comes from the same person as these bones. But there was no obvious damage to the deceased's clothing. Can you investigate in detail into what kind of hemorrhaging would have caused that bloodstain?
I see. All right. Can you give me some time for that, please?
Of course. I'll be counting on you.
Dr. Kimishima, the analysis of the syringe is complete.
The syringe? The one that was in the case?
Oh, yes. It's about that. Interferon, acyclovir, ribavirin, lamivudine.
Slow down a second. What are you talking about?
It's the medicines that were confirmed to be in the syringe and the ampules.
All that was in there?
Seriously, I don't understand. Every antiviral drug on record is in this list.
Antiviral drugs?
There was even an ampule of Ashvin's in there, too.
Ashvin's?
It's a medicine that hasn't been fully authorized by the FDA. It's an excellent antiviral drug, but there were some problems with side effects.
Huh. Just what were these reported side effects?
Okay, let's see. Ashvin's is an antiviral drug. It draws on the patient's calcium to suppress viral activities. If used in excess, the subject will become calcium deficient. The body then draws calcium from the bones, and it leads to all sorts of complications.
A drug that robs calcium from the bones.
Well, that isn't its purpose, of course, but that is what happens.
I see. Something bothers me about this, though. The deceased had a large amount of antiviral drugs in his possession, along with a dangerous, unapproved drug that caused calcium deficiency in the human body. Yes, it seems that these can be used together. The large amounts of antiviral drugs found in the corpse's personal effects, and an ampule of Ashvin's, a dangerous antiviral reagent. The reason that Ashvin's was never approved was because indeed, Ashvin's consumes large amounts of calcium from the human body. A 50-kilogram person's body contains roughly 1 kilogram of calcium. 99% of that is in the bones and teeth. In other words, the side effect of the Ashvin's drugs is yes. What first comes to mind would be an abnormal decrease in bone density. Considering the information that's been gathered so far, this person likely administered the Ashvin's drug to yes, themselves. The first piece of evidence supporting that is the complete fracturing of the femur, the strongest bone in the human body. Continuing on, the second point would be yes, the loss of the meniscus in the left knee. Thus, we can deduce that the person's weakened skeletal system was due to the side effects of the Ashvin's drug. I have a bad feeling about this. Yes, it seems that these can be combined. These bones passed on the viral hemorrhagic fever via contact with mucous membranes. And whoever this was They had been taking large doses of antiviral drugs along with a dangerous, unapproved one. It's likely that this person was... Yes, this individual had been infected with some kind of virus. That virus itself was...
If that's the case, then the cause of death was...
I should stop making conjectures. I need some hard evidence to back these theories up. Hemorrhagic fever causes hemorrhaging from all over the body, along with other various conditions. If we could find traces of that disease...
From all over.
Is something wrong?
Oh, well, we just received the results from the analysis. It says that the bloodstain on the person's clothing contained traces of saliva.
Saliva? If that's the case, then that bloodstain was... Yes, it came through the mouth, likely by being vomited. That would explain why there were no signs of damage to the person's clothing. The blood stain on the clothing was due to the person vomiting blood. The viral hemorrhagic fever causes bleeding from all over, both internally and externally. Vomiting blood is one of the signs of this disease as well. This person died of viral hemorrhagic fever. The evidence that I'm drawing that conclusion from is... That's right. If this person was still alive after having had an attack of vomiting blood, I highly doubt that they'd go on without doing something about the bloody clothes. Thus, the traces of vomited blood on the clothing indicates that this person died soon after this attack.
We finally figured out the cause of death.
Yes. Long before the pandemic that is currently raging broke out, this person caught and died of the viral hemorrhagic fever that caused this quarantine. Who in the world are you?
Dr. Kimishima, if I may.
Go on.
I've noticed something.
I'm all ears.
Well, this antiviral reagent, Ashvin's, it was rejected by the FDA for its dangerous side effects. That, along with the large amount of antiviral drugs, these things aren't available to the general public.
You have a point. Someone who would have access to these things would be... Indeed. It would be someone who has the knowledge of these new drugs and their effects on viruses. It would also be someone who has the authority to obtain such information from the medical community.
That's what I think. Does that help a little?
It's fantastic. Let's move on to the next step. How can we identify this individual, little guy?
But all we have is the skeleton and personal effects.